I'm going to run through now just a quick list of very quick little pitfalls, common things that can go wrong. They've gone wrong to me, just for you to keep in the back of your mind while you're recording or live streaming. The first obvious one, you think it's not going to happen to you. You think you've got a blinking recorder light that you'll never overlook, but believe me, you will forget to start your camera recording. You will spend a half an hour giving your review, whatever, only to find out you forgot to start it recording. The only real way to stop yourself from that, or at least minimize it, is to have a short little checklist that you read and reminds you to look up and make sure it's blinking and recording. That's my number one. The second most painful mistake that happens is having some background noise in the video. To record a video and realize, oh, we left the air conditioner running. I was used to it when I was recording, so I forgot to even pay any attention to it. Or I left the computer sound running and you can hear it in the background, or you can hear the little dings from the mail, whatever. Again, best thing you can do is a little checklist to remind you to minimize whatever sources of sound you've got in your life. Put them on your checklist. Make sure you remember to do them. Another thing that tends to happen and ruin some videos, it may not be a hard ruin, but it'll happen to you, is that some angle of the camera will have been off and you won't have picked up on it. Either the table won't be centered, or it'll be tilted a little bit side to side or up, down. The worst is when your head is cut off, you haven't left enough clearance. So get into the habit of checking that. It's not uncommon if we're doing a board game that we've had videos where the top-down camera was cutting off a whole section of the board because we didn't pay attention to it. And especially when you've got multiple cameras, it's not that uncommon to frame everything properly and then change it a little bit, change where, like, you've set everything out, you get your camera set up for the board, and then sort of the last minute before you start playing, you move the board a little bit. You're like, oh, let me give myself some room here. And you've pushed the board off camera. So get into the habit of pausing before you actually start, looking at your monitors. That's why having two big monitors showing the front camera and the top-down camera can be super useful. Get into the habit of checking, making sure everything is square, in focus, on screen, etc. If you're planning to do some editing after the fact, try to get into the habit. It's hard depending on your personality and the way you talk. Try to get into the habit of having little pauses between ideas and statements. And if there's two or more of you, try to get into the habit of having a tiniest bit of pause between what different people say, just so you can cut there. It's not infrequent to be editing something and want to cut out some part, but it's a run-on sentence that goes 10 minutes long without a pause to take a breath, and it becomes very hard to cut. I've talked about the importance of using checklists separately. I can't say enough how useful that is. Here's another more technical tip. Always check that your cables and your power are not introducing noise. Anytime you plug some new device in or turn on some device or use a new cable, you want to listen to the output of that video, listen to your recorded video, and listen for background humming or noise. I've had it happen to me several times where a certain cable is allowing electromagnetic hum noise to come into the video, or turning on one device and plugging it in versus running it off battery. If it's connected to a certain power, USB power thing, it generates noise. If it's connected to another one, it doesn't. Find those things before you waste your recording on them. Anytime you change something, recheck it out. Especially for your audio cables, if you're using 3.5 millimeter audio cables to connect microphones and stuff, if they're long run, use the smaller run as you can of those cables. And if you need to use a long run, consider using a converter to a 1/4 inch cable, a 1/4 inch balance cable.